Ms. Sehar Aftab. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening and Ramzan Mubarak. First of all, I'd like to express how lucky I feel at this moment to be standing here in front of you all, something I could have not imagined 6-7 years back. Today, I'm being introduced as a survivor, which no doubt I am, as life has definitely given me a second chance. Growing up, I led a very nourishing and fulfilling life. I was enriched with finer things of life, enjoying meals with candles, appreciating art, music, poetry, and love for nature. Being much younger than my 3 siblings, I was extremely loved and pampered. I had traveled the world from a very young age, played various sports, and was the best athlete in my school. Horse riding was my family sport, and I carried that with great passion. I was given the best of education and graduated as an architect. The life that I led, many would cherish, but it was not long before things changed. My story by no means is unusual as far as victims of domestic violence are concerned. From the second day of my marriage, I was caught in a highly abusive relationship, which only got worse with time. I want you to know that I married by choice. From day one, I was cut from my friends and family and was totally isolated. My emails and phone calls were checked and monitored. Each and every action of mine was questioned. When my family would call, they were told that no one by that name lived there and the phone would be disconnected. The anger and state of madness that was inflicted on me would have been hard to believe if I had heard of it prior to getting married. Even in a course of a normal conversation, my ex-husband would suddenly lose control. And in his rage, I would see his eyes bulge out, clench his fist. He would tremble in his temper and would throw whatever came his way. Within a few months of marriage, the walls were damaged, the furniture was broken, the wedding bedspread was ripped into pieces. And while all this happened, I would try to protect myself from being pushed, pulled, and hit. On several occasions, I was threatened by a knife and asked to leave the house in the middle of the night. Both my family and I were constantly cursed. Since I was living with my in-laws, my ex-mother-in-law would quickly clean up the broken mess before anyone would see it. With every cleanup, the unseen scars on my soul and mind became deeper and deeper. My ex-mother-in-law constantly blamed me for her son's behavior and told me that it's always a woman's fault that forces the man to raise his hand on her. She constantly taunted me and instructed me to do exactly as I was told, and that as a good wife it was my duty to obey him and please him. But no matter what I did to please them, I always fell short. So I constantly struggled to prove myself, and in that process, I began to doubt my own self. When my mother attempted to visit me for the first and only time, she was cursed out the driveway without being allowed to see me. I was about 6 months pregnant at that time. I was told by my ex-husband that he would rather kill his children than have them meet my family. Hence, I gave birth to 2 children with no family besides me. On several occasions, I was threatened that my children would be taken away from me, and I constantly lived in that fear. As time passed, I began to feel trapped. The fear built up. The fear of losing my children, the fear that I'm not capable of doing anything on my own. I was controlled by the fear and felt totally devastated. The fear that felt very real at that time now almost feels unfounded. After 2 years of marriage, we migrated to Calgary, Canada, a city I hadn't even heard of, in hope that things might change for the better. But to my dismay, there was no relief for me. The physical and emotional abuse only increased with time. By the 4th year of our marriage, my self-esteem, my confidence was all crushed. I found myself unable to go out alone, even to buy milk from across the street. While all this was happening, unknown to me, my family was trying to figure out how to reach out to me. After several failed attempts, they realized they needed guidance from someone who understood abuse and domestic violence. Call it faith, luck, kismet, or a combination of all, my sister happened to come across a group of people who were involved with an organization called Awake that dealt with domestic violence. Friends from Awake are present here with us today, and I'm grateful for their constant support. While my family was still on the path of understanding complexities of abuse and domestic violence, my sister also met Rubina at the time when Rubina herself was formalizing Turning Point as an organization. So the first chance my family got to communicate with me, they gave me a piece of paper with a number and a name, Rubina Niaz, and insisted that I call. With hesitation, I picked up the phone, not knowing this stranger that I was being asked to talk to, or without even understanding the purpose of this call. I was totally clueless about what to say, and yet ended up in a conversation that lasted an hour and a half. That became the turning point of my life. So the first time I spoke with Rubina, there was one thing that she said to me that just stuck with me and forced me to find my strength, and I'd like to share that with you. I shared the fear of losing my children with Rubina, and she said, Sehar, the worst thing you can do for your children is to keep them in an abusive home. For your son will grow up to do exactly the same with his wife as he's seen his father do. And your daughter will grow up to take abuse from her husband as she's seen you take. And that just stuck with me. On the few occasions that my family was able to reach out to me, they had said almost exactly what Rubina said to me, but somehow it never registered at that time. Let me acknowledge here that despite my education, my exposure to the society, and knowing that I have my family's unconditional support, I remained confused. I was trapped, controlled, and felt helpless. I did not know what to do. I did not know what was right. It was during this period of gloom when Turning Point came to my rescue. I do not have the words to thank them. Helped me see that if one door had closed on me, how many other doors were there waiting for me? Turning Point showed me the path to safety and security. They not only saved my life, they saved my children's lives too. So from a woman who had lost the ability to even buy milk from across the street, I became an empowered survivor who fought 2 legal battles in 2 different countries. In Pakistan, I fought to protect and keep my kids, and in Canada, I fought for the division of a matrimonial property, not for the money, but for my dignity. After 6 long years struggling with legal battles, they finally came to a successful end last year. Today, I have sole custody of my children, and I'm able to provide them a very healthy home free from abuse and oppression. Before I end, I would also like to share that I often reflected on the purpose of this journey of mine. There has to be a reason, and my experience cannot be just dismissed as a thing of the past. After a lot of thinking, I discovered that reason. I decided to write a book about my journey, and I feel even if one woman benefits from my story, my journey was well worth it. Despite this being very difficult, I started writing a year ago. I have almost finished writing, and I hope to have it published in the near future. In the end, I'd like to take the opportunity to once again thank Turning Point, my family, and all those people who've touched my life and given me their endless and unconditional support. Here, I'd also like to mention that we have an Indian friend here, Kiran, who has honored this event and has fasted today for the first time. So thank you, Kiran.